Hi everyone. For my comprehension activity, I decided to focus on story elements. To do this, I found a graphic organizer online. It's on a blog called Tanya's Take on Teaching. It's a really cool blog. It has a lot of activities on there. I modified it for what I want to do and what I want to focus on, but you can take any of her activities and modify them to what you need to, or what you're trying to teach. So this is a graphic organizer, and it's the story elements. And to introduce story elements, the book I picked a book that I really love. It's by an author. His name is Kevin Hankis, and I really love him. I like pretty much all of his books that he has written. I think they're wonderful. And this one is called Sheila Ray the Brave. And the reason I chose this one is I think that it is definitely suitable for second grade for sure, and first grade, especially if you're doing a read aloud or a whole group or small group. But it's a little bit hard for the kids to read by themselves, so I think that it is great to read with them. I would read the story first. So I would read the story with whole group, and then we would go back and do our taco. I would help them do their taco together and go find the elements in the story with our taco. So our title would be Sheila Ray the Brave, and that's our taco shell where it says title. We would write Sheila Ray the Brave, and we find it right here. And then our first element is our taco meat. So we open up our taco shell, see? And then our first element is characters. And our characters in Sheila Ray the Brave are Sheila Ray, her sister Louise, and those are the two main characters. It also briefly mentions mother, father, and a classmate named Wendell, but these are the two main characters, and that's Sheila Ray and Louise. And then our second element is plot. It's our lettuce, and it's plot. And the plot of our story is anything, and she teaches her sister about being afraid. And so, going into our story, I would bring them back to certain parts of the book, like the first page. Sheila Ray wasn't afraid of anything. And then we would go over the examples of her in her living room, her kitchen with her family, eating things that other people would maybe consider gross, but she eats them anyway. Her showing off for her friends at school, stepping or not caring about superstition and stepping on people's back, stepping on cracks and the sidewalk. And then, bring them to the example of her teasing her sister because she isn't brave. One day, Sheila Ray decided to walk home from school a new way. Louise was afraid to. "You're too brave for me," Louise said. "You're always such a scaredy cat," Sheila Ray called. "Am not," whispered Louise. So, that would support that, so Sheila Ray is brave. She shows off for everybody, and she teases her sister about not being so brave. So then we have our tomatoes, which is our conflict. And so then I would bring my students' attention to the conflict of the story, which is Sheila Ray getting lost on her way home from school one day. So it says, Sheila Ray walked and walked. She turned corners. She crossed streets. It suddenly occurred to Sheila Ray that nothing looked familiar. So, the conflict of the story was, she gets lost. And then another element of the conflict of the story could be that she feels afraid. She thought horrible thoughts. They were worse than anything she had ever imagined. I am fearless. So then our cheese is our resolution, and that would bring us to the next part of the story, which will be our resolution. The sound became more frightening. The thoughts became more horrible. Sheila Ray sat down on a rock and cried. "Help!" she sniffed. She thought of her mother and her father and Louise. "Mother, father, Louise," she cried. "Here I am," a voice said. "Louise," Sheila Ray hugged her sister. "We're lost," Sheila Ray said. "No, we're not," said Louise. "I know the way home. Follow me." So the resolution is that her sister, who she teases about being a scaredy cat, actually does know the way home and gets her out of the scary situation. And so that would be the removable elements in our taco. And then when we open up the taco shell, and we have theme in the inside of our taco shell, and so we would talk about, what is the theme of this story? What is the overall message? That doesn't really, they don't really come out right and say it in the story, but the message is, it's everybody experiences fear sometimes. It's okay to be afraid. So maybe we shouldn't teach other people for being afraid because we all experience fear. And then for differentiation, I think that for, students who are more advanced or get concepts quickly, they could, or since they are removable pieces and since it's so easy to set up, maybe to create elements of main idea. So ask them to figure out the main idea of the story. So we have our characters on one side of the meat, and then topic, so main topic, and then plot, and then plot could be turned into supporting detail number 1, conflict can be turned into supporting detail number 2, and resolution can be turned into supporting detail number 3, and then the back of their taco, they can come up with their summary. So I felt like it kind of, you could include all the elements of comprehension that way, especially to challenge them a little bit more. If they are they're becoming bored or they just fly through the lesson. And then for kids who are struggling to read, I think that putting students in small groups of like maybe 4, or even having a small group instruction time. But if you're doing whole group, having small groups of 4, and then just asking the group to come up with or to create one taco, so that they have the help of their classmates to complete their taco. I think that would be a great differentiation because they have the support of their fellow classmates. And for ELL, obviously, I think that it would be a good idea to provide a translated version of Sheila Ray the Brave if you can find one, and to also group them with students of other classmates. The way I would close this activity or close this lesson, I would ask students, or I would ask somebody if they could retell the story to me, or every student, it doesn't matter. I would ask them, okay, so how did your story taco help you remember all the elements, or help you summarize this story, or how did your story taco help you recall the events of the story? And so I would teach them that, it doesn't have to be a taco every time, but if you organize your thoughts and look for, when you're reading, have the goal of looking for the elements of the story, then it's easier to come up with the main idea, it's easier to come up with a summary, it's easy to recall the events that happen in the story. So that is my activity. I hope you enjoyed that. Please leave any suggestions you have for me below, and I look forward to watching your videos. Thanks.